Okay, well, here we are. We are back at it. Still in quarantine as we even head into the month of April here. So this is for U.S. history as we're going to continue to plug along. Obviously, you guys all know before we left for spring break that we're done with face-to-face instruction and that we're going to try to do our best to finish the year out online. And so I guess this is the. I guess we were kind of already kind of ahead of the curve a little bit kind of doing some stuff online for 3 weeks and then going on spring break. So, when that decision was made that we weren't going to go back to school face to face and schools need to continue with some online learning, I think we were a little ahead of the game, I think a little bit. But anyway, so we're going to continue on in U.S. history. So, where we last left off, World War II is over. We kind of get into this Cold War with the Soviet Union, and we try to avoid some of the mistakes that we made during World War One or after World War One with the Treaty of Versailles. So we come up with the Truman Doctrine. We go big, we go big with the Marshall Plan, and basically say to Europe, hey. Any country who wants our help, blank check, sign up to be allies, allies with the United States. Of course, the Soviet Union, they come up with their own plan, the Molotov Plan. Yeah, the Molotov Plan, kind of offering the same deal to Eastern Europe. So that's kind of where we left off. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to head in a little bit different direction. We're going to tackle, this is Schoolcraft. And again, we tackle everybody here. We're going to tackle the decade of the 1950s. Yeah, we're going to tackle the decade of the 1950s. And what we're going to do for this week and maybe part of next week, depending on how things go, is we're going to look at the 1950s in the United States, just dealing with domestic policy. And so obviously foreign policy will play a role at some point during the 50s with the Korean War. But we're going to focus right now just on domestic policy issues, challenges, success stories of the 1950s. And so one of the bigger changes that we have in the early 50s is we get a change in leadership in government and at the federal level. And what happens is in 1932, President Roosevelt, FDR, wins the election in 32, the Great Depression. And Roosevelt, ends up, winning all the way through 1936, 1940, even 1944. He passes away, obviously near the end of World War II. And then we get Harry S. Truman, Southern boy, Missouri, becomes El Presidente. He wins a close election in 48. Down goes Dewey. Down goes Dewey. You can look that one up. Truman defeats Dewey. And so in 1952, we actually go back to the Republican side. So for 20 years, the Democrats controlled the White House, whether it be Roosevelt or Truman. But in 1952, we get a brand new president, and it's a Republican, Dwight D. Eisenhower. And so, of course, we know Eisenhower from the D-Day invasion, Allied general in the European theater. And so we kind of go in a different direction with Eisenhower as our president, as we now go to the Republican side. We also get here in the 1950s a term maybe you guys have heard before, the baby boomers. And what happens is during the Great Depression, there's not a lot of babies during the Great Depression. Normally, when people get married and they talk about having kids, usually they kind of plan out having kids to be financially safe, financially secure. You don't want to have like 3, 4, 5 kids and neither one of you have a job, because then you can't afford anything. So obviously during the Depression, there wasn't a whole lot of babies being born because economic opportunities were thin. Then of course in the 40s we get World War II. So you got people off fighting, you got people dying, and so when the World War II ends and the GIs come home, people get married, and we go through this term called the baby boom generation. Yeah, the baby boomers, where we finally see a spike in babies being born in the United States. We also see some migration in the United States. We kind of flip a little bit. You start to see African Americans leaving the South, heading to the North. At the same time, you see a lot of more, I guess you could say, opportunities for people to head from the North to the South. And so you see some migration from the North to the South and some South to the North. And also, you're going to be taking a look here at the suburbs, the workforce, a blue collar, white collar. Eisenhower brings in this idea of the interstate highway system. Eisenhower was completely in awe of the German roads of World War II, the Autobahn, and it's like, wow, we need to have good roads. Fix the damn roads, as Gretchen Whitmer would say. And so the interstate highway system. So we're going to be taking a look at some of those issues. It's going to be TCI chapter 41. And so what we're going to do our first week back from spring break is that we're going to just kind of continue our normal flow, our normal transition. On decks will be posted on our class site, pretty much every day. So it gives you something to do. We're going to continue with making a living document or a Google slide, or some type of Google presentation, whatever you would like to do. So obviously in our Google Classroom, I've got the video of me here explaining what we're doing. We also have the agenda of questions from TCI chapter 41. There's some videos that kind of go along with some of the questions, and there's some different stuff about sports and culture too, in sports and movies during the 1950s. So got some movie stuff for you guys to watch, and put in some information with that, and then turn it into our Google Classroom when you're all done. So what I'll probably do on Tuesday is I'll probably create a link for you to turn in your living document when it's done, and also I'll have a link probably on Wednesday or Thursday for your on deck. So we'll kind of keep everything the same, kind of everything normal. Obviously, email me if you guys have any questions. We could always Google chat, video chat if you need to. Everybody's Zooming right now. Zoom. So if you want to Zoom, we can Zoom, whatever you want to do. So, but I think for the most part, you guys can understand what we're going to do, at least for this first week break. But I can honestly say this was one of the most unique spring breaks. That's right, most unique spring breaks. So just a lot of stuff, but good stuff. We're healthy here. So hopefully you guys are healthy wherever you are. And the weather is turning a little bit. We had some nice days. So again, I still continue to encourage you to get outside, run, bike, walk, whatever, to get outside when you can. Might be a little chillier this week, but that's okay. Still get outside and bundle up. So that's it for Mr. Flynn right now. If anything else comes up, I'll probably post another video on our Google Classroom. But this should conclude, I guess you could say, the week of April 13th. We're going 1950s, baby, the 50s. Yeah, with domestic policy. Peace.